Thank you everyone for joining us for our quarterly meeting. I'm going to show you some of the newest features and changes that have been added to the community over the last quarter. First, the new unified feed, the new user interface has been added a search bar directly within the group activity feed, making it easier for members to find relevant conversations and content. We have also, within the new user interface, fixed the roster grid styling for the groups. And also, the administrators can now customize the news tabs label at the group level for better branding. We have also upgraded the jQuery libraries to address XSS and injection-related security vulnerabilities and to improve the platform security. We have also added reactions or likes that can be customized with using emoticons to encourage more engagement and interaction. So more similar to what you can see in social media, and you can customize the emoticons that you can add.
Oh, no, Ellie, it also has, could you demonstrate the list of folks who have the you and two others if you click on that?
Yep, you were
Yeah.
able to see the stats of who has reacted to it. That's something pretty cool. Okay. The next thing, the Kanban task notifications have been added to the marketing automation engine. Also, roster imports for standalone installations have also include company fields, which can update the company for a person's profile. Under analytics and reporting, we have added a metrics and marketing tool for the for discussion level analytics. So that is for your discussions, if you can recall, there is some stats here for who has seen it online or on the website. And if you clicked on this, you were able to download a report. It now takes you into a new screen where you can see different metrics regarding that discussion. You can see how many emails, the percentage of emails have been sent out, and you still have some downloadable reports regarding web views, email views, bounces, and emails that have been sent or are pending to be sent. I recently did a training on this, and you will be able to find it in Sengii Q in our video library. Um, Also under reports, we have added a year-end review for membership that gives them an overview of how many discussions they posted or they liked, and just an overview of their activities within the community.
Yeah, for clarity, the idea behind this was sort of a year summary that you might see in some other social media areas, like, what happened on YouTube in the last year, that sort of thing. We don't have any customers piloting this currently, so if anyone is interested in beating it up and providing feedback, that would be great. So this is, for example, it has badge integration, so they can see their year in review for, let's say, 2025 as a badge. And it also has email reporting.
Perfect. The next item here is the date stamp has been added to the marketing automation reports, which is something a few of you have asked about. Um, there has also been some I call time zone fixes to the date handling for Outlook, which has fixed some issues with the calendar files. And coming soon, we are creating an AI content generation feature for administrators to post discussions. We are also in the process of creating a My Drafts management screen for managing and reusing drafts, and also refactor email notification system for performance improvement.
Let me touch on this a little bit. So the AI content generation, we already have some pilot customers. Um, it's pretty cool. I was hoping we could demonstrate it today, but we had some issues with the code merging, so I wasn't able to put that out there for anyone to take a look at yet. It is completed, so we're just going through. We'll release that to our pilot customers who were interested. I know that was ASE was one of those customers. Yeah, and then my drafts is something that we've had some customers ask for managing drafts and reusing them, posting in multiple groups, modifying that sort of thing. And then as far as refactored email notification, that's mostly something for individual immediate notifications to hopefully get those out faster for the folks who have wanted them to go out faster, including things like personalization rules and custom content, but at a higher speed. All right, that's my 2 cents.
That is all that we have for the latest features. Does anybody have any questions about any of them or have some interest in trying them out?
I have a question about the year in review. So is that something that the users will get like a recap to their emails about, or that's something that only the admin have access to?
Now, that is at a user level.
Okay.
Um, I can't recall if we have something that actually pushes it out yet, or maybe we would integrate that into the rules to maybe push that out once a year. Um, but yeah, I mean, we could definitely use feedback on that if you're interested.
Yeah, let me talk to Ginger about it and see if we want to be one of the groups that like can help you pilot it. But I think that's a cool idea because like you said, a lot of platforms do those year in reviews. Even like Spotify, they do something like that and users get really into it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I'm pleased to introduce Jim. He's the founder and CEO of Tying It Together Consulting, where he helps associations and nonprofits reduce friction in governance and membership using practical frameworks he has developed. And what makes it particularly interesting to have Jim here today is that he brings both the strategic perspective and also very much more practical operational experience. He has worked in the space for 20 years. He served as a CEO and in various senior executive positions for multiple national associations, helping them to think more intentionally about engagement and long-term sustainability. And so today we've got Jim here to help us understand how we can use data to impact the communities and how it can improve engagement and retention and add member value. So thanks very much, Jim.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Kate, you did a great job of introducing me, so I won't go into any more on that regard. And I just say we just jump right in. So, when I think about membership, one of the biggest things that I've heard over the years when it comes to members not renewing in an organization is, one of the biggest things, there's, three or four big things that they say either, I just didn't have time to participate, or I just, I couldn't find the budget for it, or I just didn't see the value in it, or, I just had a hard time figuring out how to get engaged, be involved in the community. And again, all those things, they go right down to belonging at the end of the day. If a member joins an organization, and I've developed this whole membership flywheel component that talks through the whole processes of membership, but once a member joins an organization and gets their member letter, gets that offer information, and gets, if you're like a lot of organizations, associations, they get this, they get the 3-page email that lists all of the reasons, why you're a member and all the ways you can get involved, and they sort of just leave it at that. And but the whole belonging piece, which is kind of right in the middle of the sweet spot of an organization in terms of their membership renewal, is that feeling that they felt a part of the community, that they felt engaged, they felt some connection with other people. So I'm going to just kind of call on each of y'all, and I'm going to ask you a question. And I'm sorry for the first person that gets asked this question, because the other people actually have a chance to think about what their responses are going to be. So, but I think about, when you think about the community that you have developed, what would members be doing differently if this community was truly thriving? So when you think about your community and the watching the members that have used this platform, and what would members be doing if this community was differently, if this community was truly thriving? So like, what would be the things that you would see them doing that would be indicative of somebody who's part of a very thriving community? And is it Noelle? Did I say that right?
Yes.
Oh, very good. All right. So what would you think if you saw this, if you were just to walk into this platform and saw it just being thriving, robust, what would you say that members are doing differently than maybe some others that maybe aren't doing so well?
Asking engaging questions and having others reply and connect with them.
Okay. Yeah, so getting maybe not immediate, but getting feedback. Somebody asks a question, I'm really struggling with this electrical engineering problem that I'm having. Is anybody else facing that same issue? And next thing you know, you've got 4 or 5 responses, some people saying, oh yeah, I've done that, or no, I found a solution to that. So yeah, absolutely. So people communicating based on posts, so you see some of that. How about Galen?
I mean, our community was primarily email based to begin with, and that's how they've continued to use it since migrating to Sengii. Um, and I don't really see much of a difference other than I don't see people going online now. We
Right.
get 1 or 2 out of people, 60 or so people in a group that might go online. And I don't think I think the online function is most useful for people that are coming in new and being able to see what they've missed in past questions.
Right.
But otherwise they tend to just use it as a listserv, and I think they use it they're pretty engaged as it is now, I think.
Okay. If it could be different, what would it look like? Could you see it looking different? Did you envision it being something different when you first decided to do it?
I think maybe we hope more people would use the online functionality of it. But I'd say overwhelmingly decided not to.
Gotcha. Okay.
But me as the administrator, I'm still pretty happy with the setup and how infrequently we have issues compared to our prior vendor.
Gotcha. No, that's good. That's good. How long have y'all been doing this? Using the platform?
At least 3 years, I think. I don't know if
Okay.
Kate or Noelle remember exactly when, but yeah,
Gotcha. Okay.
it's been a few years.
Okay. All right. No, that's good. That's good. How about Gwen? Maybe Gwen?
Sorry, I had to
Oh, there you go.
unmute. It took me a while
No
to
worries.
find the
No worries.
unmute button.
No
I
worries.
was
No
clicking
worries.
on my name and it wasn't unmuting.
You're
Sorry.
like I'm here. I promise. I'm not.
So
Just
I would echo Galen. We would like to see people going more to the community itself to get engaged rather than emailing staffers questions that the staffers then go and post on their behalf.
right. Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that experience.
Yeah.
how long have y'all been using it?
I want to say probably 5 years, something like
Okay.
that.
Okay. All right. So yeah, so absolutely. So yeah, so more members responding to things as opposed to staff feeling like they have to be the ones moderating the discussions. It should be member centric and not member slash staff centric. I'm with you on that. Caroline.
Yeah, I mean, I can echo everything that they've all said. It's the same for us, just wanting more of that peer-to-peer sort of engagement rather than the staff to member engagement. And I think too, like in heading in the direction more of making this like a social media channel, I think it would be
Mm,
great to have more imagery, like instead of it
right.
being these bulky text posts, members coming to share success stories or events that they went to and actually showing pictures from that. Um, it just makes it more appealing to
Yeah,
scroll through and to engage with. So yeah, that would be the only thing I would add.
gotcha. No, that makes sense. Yeah, I think.
I just
Oh,
had
go
a
ahead,
real
Galen.
quick
Yeah, go
kind
ahead.
of thought. I know Sengi's mentioned, I believe, that they were rolling out an app. But I believe each company has to get its own version of it, and it isn't cheap. Um, I mean, I guess I would love something if it were more like, I would probably compare it to Reddit, where it's one app and maybe you have access to whichever um, forums that you've been gained access to, even if it's branded as Sengi, that makes it easy for our members to just use an app to go in and use it on their phones. Something like that, I think would be nice.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I can actually put in 2 cents on that. We actually do have a Tapatalk integration, which serves exactly that purpose. And we did have some customers using it for a time, but they wanted a branded dedicated app. So coincidentally, that particular need in that particular way is already served if you're interested in trying it out.
So we could do Tapatalk but we
Yeah,
have to
that's
do an integration for that though.
I mean, we would just turn it on essentially
Oh, okay.
and just set it up. Um,
Do you have a test one I could poke around in?
I don't offhand, but I can look into it for you if you want to send me an email just to
Okay,
remind me.
sure.
Um, because yeah, it's been a while since somebody has asked for that. It's usually the exact opposite request, so that's interesting.
It's a bit prohibitive cost wise for us.
Yeah, no, I can definitely understand that. And that is, you know, that is one of the biggest challenges is that mobile apps require constant changes and patches, not even
Mhm.
because of issues with the software on our side, but because of
Apple
framework
and Google.
changes, policy changes. Yeah, it's so complicated and it requires constant attention. It's really burdensome.
Hmm. No, I understand that.
Absolutely. So, okay. So, yeah. So, I think, it sounds like you all are experiencing what a lot of associations, I think, experience and the notion of that how do you get people to engage more in the community? You've been doing it for a while. You know, some of the, you've seen some success, but obviously you're looking for hopefully more. And, when I think about success when it comes to a community like this, there's several kind of what I would say measures of success. First being, and y'all have kind of alluded to it, is that notion of engagement. Just actually seeing members get online, engaged, post replies to things, share resources. This notion of, we talked a little bit about this notion of belonging, where again members feel like they're welcome, that they're connected. Making so when you think about those things, as many times as possible, and sometimes it may be a staff person, it may even be just a volunteer liaison who's tasked with doing some of these things in the online community to sort of feed it. So it's not always coming from a staff member necessarily, but when a member does post online or does do something, that there's a volunteer liaison there to kind of make them feel known, make them welcome, make them connected, so that way they have that knowledge, or that sense of the belonging piece. um, So again, those are some of the things, hopefully if you're using it enough, you're seeing those opportunities for knowledge exchange and promoting leadership development. I mean, you're seeing some of those components. But, again, when we think about what's what could be done better in terms of, not using something is, I use the phrase that it's, the lack of activity isn't necessarily, the problem as much as it could be a communication thing. So I guess one of the things that I was just kind of curious, and I'd like to kind of go around the horn here and ask this question is this, is the people not using the community an awareness problem, or is it a value problem, or is it a habit problem? So I guess asking that question of your members, if they're not using it, maybe they're aware of it, but maybe they don't appreciate what the value of it actually is. So are you all experiencing some of that? I mean, and understanding, getting that, getting in there and surveying or calling and talking to members, one-on-one, or having a focus group or whatever, are you using any opportunity you can to, I guess, promote the community in the sense of finding out, if people are in fact aware of it, then why aren't they using it? Do they not see the value in it? Is there a value misalignment in terms of what this offers? Is it just the fact that, I mean, I think about the habit of, I mean, and you can either show a reaction or throw your face up, whatever. But how many of you every morning when you wake up, and maybe not every morning, but consistently when you are up in the morning or going to bed at night, check your social media feeds? And you can be honest. All right. Yeah. See, right. And why do you do that? Nobody trained you how to do that. You just do it because it's a habit. You've gotten into doing it. So now you just consistently just do it. So, maybe there's a habit problem with the members not using it because they're just not in the habit of doing those kind of things. So, so, for Gwen and Galen and Caroline, what do you all sense? Do you think that there's an issue with people not using the community as much because they don't know about it, or do you sense another issue?
I think there is an issue. Galen was talking about wanting some sort of mobile friendly way of accessing the platform. And obviously that's where people are. They're on their phones.
Absolutely.
And that's also like our members, they're physicians, they're busy. The easiest way to reach them is where they're already going to be instead of having to, log on to a browser version or whatever. So I think just the accessibility piece is a big problem. And then it's also a question of like the cart before the horse, like because people aren't really using the platform, it's almost hard to show its value to get people to use the platform.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a catch-22, right? It's like you have to have a reason for them to value it, but if they're not there, which is mostly the value is having the members there. So it's like that kind of like, okay, well, we need members to populate it so that there's lots of activity, but if there's not lots of activity, then the members don't want to be there. So it's exactly. Like, okay. No, I totally get that. Gwen, Galen, what do you all think? I mean, in terms of, diagnosing the real, I guess maybe reason why people aren't using it. Do y'all sense the same things that Caroline's seeing there in terms of just,
I would agree with Caroline. I think that, accessibility is what is a big key. If it's not easy to get to, and if it's not convenient, they're not going to use it. And as far as awareness, we probably touch them 3 or 4 times throughout the first year that they're a member, letting them know about the community. But we've never done any research as to how well those touches are resonating with the members.
Right.
So, but then how much is too much? You can't keep beating them up, saying, hey, we've got this great community. We've got this great community. So after a while, it just has to be reliant upon themselves to go in there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let me ask this, because I don't know enough about the platform to know this, but when a member joins the association or your organization, are they automatically a part of the community, or do they have to do something manually to become a part of the community?
For us, they're automatic.
Gotcha. Okay. So you automatically join the community and now they just got to engage.
Yep.
For us, it is only specific members are eligible to join, and it's by request only. And so they sign in, and then they just it's they treat it like like an old listserv, just emailing. That's easy already. They're already in their emails already. So I think that's kind of easiest way. The biggest complaint we get is that is with calendar invites not working like with Outlook.
Right.
So when we need to change something in a calendar, they gotta re-download it, and we have issues with people who don't adopt technology very readily to begin with. So
Yeah, right. No, I understand that. Yeah, so I think about because I know a lot of organizations do this too. So don't feel like you're not you're not in a situation where not other organizations are too. I mean, even ASAE, which is the American Society of Association Executives, which has an online community, even they from time to time at the beginning when they started their a collaborate forum, had some troubles with getting folks engaged. So you know, but it's not as simple as just putting the benefit in a email and say, hey, congratulations, welcome to ASAE. We're happy you're a member. Don't forget, engage in our community. And then leave it at that. So it's one of those things that sometimes when you think about your communities, you have to think about is what I'm asking our members to do too vague? So, are there specific things that, maybe you can task them with? I know one of the groups that I'm a member of that I joined, I got the information, says, hey, congratulations, you're a member of our community. And one of the first things it said was, go introduce yourself in a thread somewhere. Maybe if you're a young professional, okay, well, go on to our young professionals thread and introduce yourself. Or, go on, if there's a poll going on right now, hey, go in and answer this one question poll, um, or share a resource, whatever it is, like give them specific tasks or asks to do so that, you're kind of helping them sort of populate that information and giving them just an easy way to maybe do something, whether it's, okay, we've got a town hall on Friday. Make sure you go online and ask one question before this Friday, and like only people that are in the community will be able to ask a question at this forum or something. But making those specific asks of people through your communication so that that exactly what because again, a lot of organizations fall into that trap of saying, yes, one of our member benefits is this community forum, so go there and engage, but without giving them some specific ask of like, well, what are you asking me to do? What would you like me to do when I actually get into this community? So I'm just curious, are any of y'all using any of those kind of things? Or if not, can you think of things that would resonate with your members to say like, okay, if I were to ask the members to do this, do you think they might do it?
We don't do that currently, but I definitely see the value in that, and sort of populating the platform with more content to engage with. And I think, kind of leading a horse to water situation,
Right.
until it becomes more of a habit building thing. Yeah, I definitely see the value in that, and I like that idea. We have webinars regularly, and we also have like Twitter, or X, whatever. We have like a town hall almost on there, and so we could kind of integrate that with the platform. So yeah, I see a lot of ways of building that content out.
Absolutely. Galen or Gwen, what are your thoughts on that?
Not something we really need because people are already opt-in for us, and so they they want to be in there, and then they start getting hit with all the messages already.
Right.
So
Right. No, that's fair too. Um, so I think, one of the things that, when you talk about, using data, as sort of that, you know, as you notice, you probably saw this from maybe information that came out. One of the big things that I am a huge proponent of is using data to drive the decisions that an organization makes. So, and again, if you have this data, it sounds like some of y'all probably do based on some of the comments already, is that you know that that there's people that are currently in your organization that aren't active in the community. They aren't utilizing it. They're not either A, right, we said earlier, either A, it's just not a habit, or B, they just haven't seen the value in it yet to why they should participate. So something that and again, this could be a staff person doing this, depending on your staff size and your capabilities, or it could be a volunteer outreach standpoint. It could be something that the membership community, if you have a membership committee that's in place, this is something that I love seeing membership committees get involved in, not just the aspect of, so many times we use our membership committees for renewal time and then or recruiting, and we sort of forget that time frame in between of that retention and engagement. The retention starts before the renewal starts. So if you can get your membership committee maybe active in some of these components in the community piece. So for example, if you've got that member who say has, it's great for new members in that first check-in period in that 30, 60, 90 day time frame. So if within 90 days, if you went and ran some data and said, okay, in the last 90 days, who all has joined the organization and who has not been in the community yet? Just and that might, Gwen, like that works great for somebody like yourself who, you join the association and you're automatically part of the community. So if you've got those, 10 members that joined in the last 90 days and, 8 of them haven't even logged into the community, haven't posted anything, that's a great opportunity for an outreach to that member and say, hey, look, we're so glad you joined the association. Notice you haven't been involved in the community yet. Was there something you were hoping to get from it that maybe you haven't? Just to kind of use that as an opportunity to, A, you're engaging with a member. B, you might be collecting some good data on what you can do that maybe is not working, that maybe you thought was working or not, or whatever the case is. Something else that's really helpful too, and again, especially for those who have staff that may be monitoring the chats and monitoring the conversation, and Caroline, I'll use you example because I know you said you're in the medical space, but if somebody, for example, goes online and posts something like a question of some sort that for a fact that either one of your members has dealt with this issue or knows this subject pretty well, or whatever the case may be, reaching out to that member and saying, hey, I just noticed there was a comment made or a question asked about this. Would you mind going online and responding to them? Even though you might could answer the question yourself, but if you can tap a member, especially if you know that member maybe is not engaged in the community, this is a great way to go in and actually, again, using that data to go through and say, okay, well, who's not currently in the platform that we can, go in and maybe trigger some of that. Again, the goal there is really just to make just the outreach, just it's relevant, it's personal, it's just, again, I always say any excuse to reach out to a member and have a conversation with them before their renewal time happens is always a good thing. So, again, some other things that I think about when, using a community platform, and again, I don't know if you guys are already doing some of this or not, but depending on what kind of events you're having, how often you're having them, whether they're, an in-person event or a webinar or a recorded event, is using the community platform to either post event follow-ups there. I've seen something that's worked out really well for especially like a young professionals group. If you happen to have a group of young professionals, is to actually host a live Q&A in the platform. So in other words, schedule a time and say, okay, Wednesday at 10 o'clock, we're going to have this, if I'm I'll just look like in my space, in the association world, if we have one of our preeminent, if Michelle Mason, the president of ASAE, was going to be online doing a live community, like a live Q&A in their Collaborate platform, I might be interested in going on that, even if I don't participate necessarily, but just to see some of the chats and some of the comments that are going on back and forth. But again, making sure that there's components or times for that live engagement, because that can really make the community come to life. I mean, you think about how many people, post Facebook Live things or Instagram Live reels. I mean, all those kind of things. They do make an impact. So, again, the big thing is you just, it's got to be a place where people feel like they can come and get stuff done, that they can make it a part of their work. So whether it's, having templates and tools or recordings there, making sure that you're driving that kind of information. And again, maybe it's one of these things where you create some sort of exclusive discussions, or maybe it's if you've got a big keynote speaker coming up, at your conference coming up, and you say, okay, we're going to have the, so and so that's going to be there to answer some questions for 30 minutes one day or something, or whatever the case is. So, is anybody doing anything like that where they're using the platform for a live situation, or does that sound like something that would be interesting that your members might resonate with?
Not doing it currently, but definitely a good idea for our members that I will take back.
Hey, if anything, I've given some good ideas. If that works, that's good.
No, I'm loving the brainstorming. It's great.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Well, a community is they can be such a valuable piece of the puzzle. I know, and again, this is going back several years, but I remember when ASAE had a section in there, Collaborate. Actually, I think it was even pre-Collaborate, so it's not part of Collaborate now, but anyway, it used to be part of their community platform, was all these access to all these templates, and it was sample member surveys and sample RFPs, or a sample hotel contract, or whatever the case was. And I remember one year my membership had lapsed, and I went to log in and I couldn't access, and I needed something right then, and I went to log in and I couldn't access the community to access all these documents. And as you can imagine, ASAU was the first thing on my phone call list that day, because I need this. I need access to this information, because this is the only place I can get it. So, making sure that, you're feeding and populating the community with lots of good resources and tips and tools and tricks and things like that they would only get there. Because again, that's one of those valuable things about that community component. And especially if you start populating it, because I know, again, not to keep using ASAE as an example, but they were a great example in the sense that, they sort of populated some things, but then as the members would, find a great, a strategic board agenda, then they would, they could upload, they had the ability to upload it into the community and actually make it a shared resource for everybody. So it was nice when people started, bits and pieces of it started being built out, then it started growing, because other people, again, people are proud of their work that they do. And so oftentimes it's nice to be able to share things that, you've been working on that maybe somebody else could take advantage of.
Yeah, those are some good ideas, Jim. Another thing I was thinking about was one of the biggest issues with adoption by membership that I've seen with customers is people are just kind of scared to use it. They don't want to hop into this thing where they're not sure how someone responds to it. They don't want to feel stupid potentially, that sort of thing. So I think that's one of the hurdles is just, essentially like being afraid of making themselves known on this platform. And I was thinking weekly things like, what are some challenges in the profession that you're noticing this week? Or just basic questions to get them to just dip their toes into engaging. Because,
Right.
Like Galen is talking about, everyone uses it as a listserv. And we have customers like that. They have excellent engagement culture. It's not an issue of engagement. Like in this case, they prefer listserv. And sometimes that's the culture
Yeah.
that they have built up. And that's fine. But as long as they're engaging, really, and finding value in the platform.
Right.
But getting that culture built for a customer who doesn't already have it established, that's, I think, one of the biggest hurdles I've seen.
No, absolutely. Well, and in some cases, with a community platform like this, you may have to find yourselves kind of seeding it intentionally, because again, it's like with anything, communities don't just happen and become active by accident. They need some sort of prompting, in some cases you may need champions in place to actually do some of those things. And then again, not just staff, because, always, when staff do things, it's great. I mean, I've never criticized that. But when a member sees another member doing it or another colleague doing it, it has a different level of credibility because, again, from a staff perspective, we're paid to do this. So they sort of expect that we're going to be in there doing things because that's part of our jobs. But when another member does it, especially a prominent member, if you have somebody who has some recognition, so, as you're kind of developing in your platform, you can be thinking about things like that, whether it's from time to time, can you think about, are there 10 or 20 members that maybe we could, personally invite to participate? Could we use them as our sort of our seed to nurture to sow the seeds a little bit, to maybe nurture a little bit? And again, going back to that thing we made earlier, are there some potential weekly discussion items that you could throw out there that might help create some predictability? So if you know that, every Thursday, every third Thursday, we're going to do an online discussion around something, so that people can start, again, predicting, getting into that habit of knowing that, oh, well, I know every Thursday we do this. And also too, something that, as you're thinking about data and thinking about some of those data-driven decisions that you might make, are there questions that, or comments or things or concerns that members are asking, whether it's by email or by phone, that are things that could be populated into the community too? So if you know that, somebody just emailed the staff a question about something, just, there's no problem with telling that member, like, did you think about posting this in the community to ask any question, ask anybody this? Again, trying to drive them in that space of, sure. I mean, as a staff member, I'm sure I could probably answer your question or come up with something or give you a resource to do that. But in addition to that, have you thought about putting that in the community and just mentioning that? Like, how often are we referring people to the community to do things? Just so, again, it makes it kind of more front and center. And, again, people love being recognized. People love being called out and being thanked. One of the things I always say on this, like, don't shame people who aren't using the platform, because that can be bad. That can go the other direction. But on the flip side, are there ways to recognize members publicly to other members to say, hey, man, Jane posted, if you have a newsletter, like, Jane posted this great comment on the community last week, and yada yada, whatever it is. But recognizing members for doing those things in the community, because then they can see that, oh, well, this is something that other people are watching this. Other people are watching me do this. So again, those are kind of some of the things that you might consider. And what we got to, what, 1:45, is that right?
That
Okay.
was
I
that was
see
the
where,
intended time, but
okay.
I don't know if I mean, you can probably trail off a little bit more.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'll start wrapping it up. But, well, one thing I was gonna go and just kind of ask sort of a follow-up question to everybody, because, just again, this is when they think about the, how we can make the community more engaging. And I'll just go around the horn again, and just and Kate and Alexia, I'll ask y'all too. So I'm gonna ask y'all this first, because y'all could maybe have some insight too that you're hearing from other organizations. But when you think about your community, think about this one question. So what would make this community so useful that members would feel they were missing out by not checking? I use that analogy about not being able to access a template that I sort of expected to get through ASAE. So when you think about your membership and your organization, what would make it so useful that a member would feel like they were missing out if they weren't able to access it? So, Alexia, Kate, I don't know if y'all heard any members making, or organizations that have talked
I
about,
think
or
I think referral resources, trade secrets, probably navigating legislative changes.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I mean, it really, unfortunately, this question is very specific to the space of the community and who it's serving. But I think all of those things, yeah,
Yeah,
resources, all those types of things are really important. Um, that's my thought.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think we've seen a lot of action around system changes to the revenue services just before the end of tax year.
Hmm. yeah, so being able to share that kind of information and knowing that you can go there and have access to some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Gwen, what about you? What would make your community so useful that a member would?
So this is going to sound odd, but when a member actually posts a question, knowing that they're going to get feedback from other members.
Right.
Because nothing makes me feel worse than seeing a member that actually went to the community and posted something and then there's crickets.
Right.
And as staffers in the back end, we are trying to find people to answer those things. But again, it needs to come from another member, not another staffer.
Right. Right.
So that would be, I think, invaluable, knowing that you're going to get a response.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because you're right. I mean, if you know that I can go on this community forum and post this problem that I'm suffering or dealing with, most of the time, if it's a problem, you need a response fairly quickly. You'd at least like something within the next 24 hours. Hopefully, as soon as I post it, there's people commenting, right? But we know the reality of that. So, uh, Caroline, what about you?
Yeah, I would agree with Gwen. Definitely just having responses to what they actually post in there, but I also think too like access to the luminaries in our field.
Mhm.
And how you had mentioned like a Q&A session with like a keynote speaker, something like that. I know that our younger members would find that very helpful, but also
Mhm.
even some of our more advanced practitioners would also be very interested in hearing from, sort of the leaders of the field that happen to be ASE members.
Right, right. Give them that exclusive access that a non-member or a non-participating member of the community doesn't get access to. It's a great driver for sure.
Mhm.
And Galen, I know you said a lot of your folks are still using it as a listserv, and which is great. Again, like Alexia, like you said, I mean, that's a good thing. That's you're seeing engagement, which is fine. So any feedback from you? Because I feel like I could probably guess the answer, but I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I mean, somebody mentioned earlier, keeping track of legislative changes, and that's a large thing of what our members use it for. Is one state posts like, "Hey, we're having this is popping up in our state house. Has anybody else dealt with this?" And
Right.
people chime in, "Nope, we haven't," or there might be a little bit of crickets in that case, or they pretty much share what their game plan was when it came to them.
No, that's great. That's great. Yeah, I think you nailed it on the legislative and advocacy piece. That's one of those things, especially in a national organization when you've got state affiliates that are experiencing, legislators that, as we know, legislatures from all over the country are in various um not to sound political, I'm not making this a political statement, but there's a lot of activity that's going on both sides. Everybody's trying to get action done, and sometimes it can be very detrimental depending on what what state you're in. So you have to be very on your game when it comes to legislative advocacy because stuff gets pushed through. Committees get things happen in committees that all of a sudden this bill just pops up out of nowhere. And as a state organization, when all of a sudden that happens, you want to know that you've got access to other members across the country that can say, hey, we just had our legislator do something crazy and they just filed this bill on blah 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 blah. Anybody else seeing this? So things are just moving so rapidly on our state levels. So being able to have your pulse on that in a way is great. So well, on that note, I'll kind of wrap it up. But again, obviously you've got a great team here to help you all out from in terms of getting some good access to get. Sounds like there's some great things coming down the pipe, especially from a mobile standpoint, because you're right. I mean, I would imagine, not to ask this question again, but in asking it in a different way, when you are in that habit of checking your social media every morning, potentially, or in the evenings, um, show of hands or thumbs up, probably accessing on your mobile phone versus your desktop. Yeah, right. So not many of us are going on Facebook or Instagram, checking our going to our laptops and pulling up Facebook. Chances are, or Instagram or whatever, TikTok, you're probably pulling up your phone. You're looking at that. So that's where you really do have to go where people are at, which is, they have these things with them all the time. So anyway, with that said, I will turn it back over to Kate. And again, just thank you all so much for having me today.
I just want to make sure, Jim, in case anybody is interested in working with you, because you do, one of the things I don't think was mentioned strongly enough is you have such excellent experience in sort of the organizational aspects of associations. And so anyone who's interested in potentially working with you or picking your brain, I don't know if you want to put your information in the chat for
Yeah, let me do that real quick.
contact. Yeah, so good. Um, and also, of course, we'll include that when we post this for reference to anyone who missed it.
Fantastic. No, I
Thank,
appreciate that. Yeah.
yeah, thanks so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you. It was
absolutely.
really very lively and helpful discussion. So I think it gives us some things to think about.
Absolutely.
Thank you very
Glad to
much
do
for
that. Glad to
joining
do
us,
that.
Jim.
Absolutely.
And thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Thank
Absolutely.
you. See you
Absolutely.
next time.
All right. You
See
guys have a
you.
great rest of your week.
You too. Bye bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.